Stay up to date with all that's happening with the new national party, NNP. Send us a message via text or WhatsApp on 405-8683 with your name, email, and constituency. Stay in the know with NNP. Get updated.
It's coming, the new family of EC polymer notes.
What is different about these notes?
The feel.
Polymer notes are made from a thin plastic film which makes the notes feel smoother than the paper notes.
The orientation.
The notes have a portrait orientation. You will read the notes from top to bottom instead of left to right as you do with the paper notes.
Unique tactile feature.
The front of each note has raised bumps at the top left-hand corner. These bumps form shapes that are familiar to you.
Holographic foil strip.
This feature is on the $20, $50, and $100. When you tilt the notes, the images and colors in this section will change.
New image on the $50.
The back of the $50 bears the image of former governor of the ECCB, the late Honorable Sir K. Dwight Venner.
New signature.
All the notes bear the signature of the current governor, Timothy N.J. Antoine.
EC polymer notes. Cleaner, safer, stronger.
2018 was great. 2019, this will be epic. This is me, Scholar, 2018 Calypso Monarch of Grenada, and I'm inviting one and all to come down to Grenada for Spice Mass, the greatest, biggest festival in all of the world. I'm inviting you to the Mardi Gras, where I will be chasing after history. This year, the Mardi Gras, this will be the greatest Mardi Gras of all the Mardi Gras. All the bards will be coming.
I want to tell Mr. Killer, come over, the message to lava, come over.
Man, if you want to win the monarchy, do head reduction surgery. They talk going around the tongue. Your head too big for the crown.
So listen to what I say. Forget police CCJ.
So what are you waiting for? Just book your ticket and come down. Last carnival was real bacchanal, and this year going to be the mother of all. The boom boom going to ring, heart is going to sing. Pam pam. Big up Versailles.
Hello, my name is Michaela Williams, winner of the Festival of the Arts Secondary School Solo Pan Competition. And these are my colleagues.
We are members of the Full Comancheros Field Orchestra, your current panorama champions.
Having won 3 of the last 4 panorama competitions in Spice Mass.
We are inviting you to Spice Mass 2019, especially junior and senior panorama, at the National Stadium on Saturday, 10th August 2019.
Come and enjoy the experience, the excitement, and the skills of the players of the various steel orchestra. Suzuki Pan Wizards,
Republic Bank Angel Apps,
New Dimension,
Panacea,
Melody Warriors,
Rainbow City All-Stars, Grand Roy Pan Angels,
Digital Florida All-Stars,
and of course, Flow Comancheros.
After Panorama, you can join us on the road for Juve and Parade of the Bands on Monday the 12th and Tuesday the 13th of August.
Spice Mass 2019. Don't miss it.
Stay up to date with all that's happening with the new national party, NNP. Send us a message via text or WhatsApp on 405-8683 with your name, email, and constituency. Stay in the know with NNP. Get updated.
For instance, we have a case of emergency. The Police, ambulance, and fire must respond immediately. But anytime you call the police station, they never have no form of transportation, so they can't respond to the phone call that...
And good morning to you, Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. Once again, it is time for Hard Talk. My name is Sheldon Scott.
And I'm Devon Romain.
And this is Hard Talk. We're being broadcast to you via 97.5 CitysoundFM,
89.5 CRFM,
and 92.9 Sister Isle FM out there in Carriacou.
And 94.9 We Noise Radio out there in Brooklyn.
Yes, indeed. Good morning to you, Wade, and we hope that you're having a fabulous day. All our listeners and viewers out there in Brooklyn, and the United States in general. Those of you in North America, South America, throughout the Caribbean region, we have quite a few listeners who tune in from the British Virgin Islands and Aruba, Bonaire. We've got listeners throughout.
Curacao.
It's strange that we have Grenadian communities in all of these places. We saw it especially after the hurricane, when many of them were contacting to say, hey, I'm here.
I'm okay.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here. Yeah, so we have quite a wide, yeah. So we say a special good morning to each and every one of you. People like Mr. Watts. Yeah, we know Sonia, Bev, we know that you're listening, even though you don't get the opportunity to call as regular as you used to. We say good morning to you. Good morning to you, Roger. And Roger, I've got something to show you, man. I'll send it to Mom. I've got something to show you. You'll love it. Yeah? And special good morning to all of you, Kathy. And we know Captain and Lady Fran, all of you, you're listening via the 94.9. We Noise Radio. And those of you over there in the UK, William, we know that you're listening as well. We say good morning to you and Chris. And those of you out there in Birmingham, I've been meeting some people from Birmingham who've been saying, hey, we're Grenadians and we're listening. Those of you in Huddersfield who are listening as well, and so on. Hey, and those of you in the UK, just to let you know, the Honorable Peter David, he will be in your neck of the woods this weekend. Yeah. And he is going to be having a nice meeting with the Grenadian diaspora out there in London this weekend. I'm trying to pull up the flyer here of the meeting so that you could know exactly where it is taking place. Let me say as well a special good morning to you, Lakeisha Grant. Yeah. Kish. Good morning to you. We hope that you're having a fabulous day today. Where is that? Oh, here it is. All right. Yes, so that's going to be taking place at the Acton Vale Community Centre. That's in Acton, London, W37JZ. All right, so that's at W37JZ. Those of you in London, you know how to find that. Yeah, some of them just put it into the phone and the application tells them where it is. So it'll be a consultation on Grenada's draft policy, launch of the Diaspora Skills Survey, meet and greet with Foreign Minister Honorable Peter David. And as they mentioned there, the launch of the Diaspora Skills Survey. What is being done through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs under the leadership of the Honorable Peter David is that they're going out there and they're finding out what skills Grenadians who are overseas possess and are willing to lend to the development of their homeland.
Yeah.
So we may have a neurosurgeon, one of the best in the world, may possibly be Grenadian, and he might be willing to come home and do a number of surgeries to help people that have different issues neurologically. Yeah, we may have cardio. For those of you that may not know what neurological surgeon is, that's a person that deals with brain surgery then, a brain surgeon. And then cardiac, people who deal with the heart. Or we may have some that deal with cancer. We may have some that deal with eyesight, ophthalmology, or whatever they call it, yeah? ENT specialists. So there is a survey that's being done of Grenadians in the diaspora and what skill set they have and are willing to lend to the development of their country. So over the next few years, we can see probably some dentists come in, and we've been seeing that already, especially with that group out of, I believe it's Toronto. But we'll be seeing that happening with more and more Grenadians coming home and offering services. We think that many of you who are out there in the Grenadian diaspora have skills, have knowledge, and even have resources that you would like to give to Grenada, but you're looking for the proper format to do it. You don't want it to be that our friend Diego, I think he deals with cardiology. Yeah, he's a cardiologist. You don't want it where Diego just decide on his own that he come in and do a thing, and that the Ministry of Health or the General Hospital, nobody's aware that he's coming, so that they know that he's coming, when he's coming, and they can make referrals of individuals to him who are in urgent need of care. Yeah, so it's a very important meeting that the Honorable Peter David is having there in London. So those of you that can make it, remember it's taking place at the Acton Vale Community Centre. That's at Acton, London, W37JZ, right? W37JZ. And if you'd like to get some more information in relation to this meeting or other information, you can call 4420-7385-4415. Let me get that number again, 4420-7385-4415. And Devon, we have to remember to give that before the end of the program today again, so that those who are out there and want to meet up with the Honorable Peter David, they will have the opportunity to do so. All right, nice. And we have some scheduled fogging. Yesterday, the fog me out, boy. Yeah, I get live and direct.
Yeah, scheduled for fogging, the fogging program 2019 from the Ministry of Health, right? Senior Environmental Officer. Okay, it's for July 3rd, Wednesday, July 3rd. Tantine, including the port of St. George's, right, from 5 p.m. Right, there will be fogging in that area and surroundings. Right, Tantine, which include the port of St. George's. And on Thursday, that's tomorrow, please the Lord, the 4th, right, Port of Lansepine, including the boatyard and its environs. Okay, so these are scheduled for today and tomorrow, please the Lord. We are in Tantine, right, today from 5 p.m. doing the fogging, and so Tantine and the Port of St. George's, and tomorrow at Port Lansepine, which includes the boatyard and its environs.
Mm-hmm. And folks, remember, Carnival City is the place to be. Yeah. For tomorrow night, so Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday and Sunday. 4 nights of soca competition. 150 plus artists in action over those 4 days. So you can head on out to Carnival City in Tantine any one of the nights. I think we have a call online, even though we have a guest coming in at 11.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning.
Morning.
Hey, good morning, my
How are you
friend.
doing, brother? Sheldon, I want to ask you a question.
Go right ahead.
Yeah, was Light and Bihari a product of Imani?
Royd and Bihari, yes, he was.
Yes, man. I tell you, I could remember that young man in the youth center.
Well, I could remember him even before that because his first appointment was working along with me as my assistant. And that had to be back in about 2007. 2007, yeah. His first appointment was working along with me in the ministry.
That's a rising star in Grenada, man.
Yeah, of course.
The young fella good, man. The young fella good. Product of the Imani, eh?
I ain't starting to call name of people that train, man. If I go say I showing off, so I done.
No, man, show off. We have a right to show off, you know. We have a right to show off.
All right, my brother.
Have a good day, brother.
Same to you.
Right.
Good.
Yes, indeed. I believe Royden was on today on To The Point together with Senator Garraway. Yep. I think I glimpsed something somewhere that both of them were on. I didn't get a chance to listen to the program. It's been a busy morning for me. You know, it's been a kind of week for me in total. And it's been a busy morning for me. So I didn't get a chance. So I can't comment much on it. I didn't even get to listen. Usually, you know, I pay real attention. I didn't get to listen yesterday's program in its entirety. So, but that's how it's going. Folks, for those of you in St. George Southeast, yeah, the Honorable Gregory Bowen, he will resume his office visits tomorrow. So he'll be in the Parliamentary Constituency office down there in Laborie. He'll be there tomorrow from 8 a.m. For the past 3 weeks, he's sort of been in and out of the island. So he has not been able to keep his normal Thursday meeting schedule. But he will be back in office tomorrow from 8 a.m. So find yourself right there. All right? Nice. Yeah, find yourself right there. Good.
Good morning to all the doctors and the nurses and so in the different medical facilities around our island, the hospitals, the health centers, and so. And a special good morning to Dr. Thomas. Yeah. It's doctor at the General Hospital.
We ask you to keep him in your prayers.
Keep him in your prayers.
Yeah, he's
right?
not 100%.
Yes, and he's a doctor at that. So, the doctor also needs a doctor, okay? So, as we move along today, let us all remember, right, the doctors, and especially Dr. Thomas, who really need our prayers this morning.
Yes, folks. And, we spoke about the diaspora and people lending their skills, and immediately a WhatsApp comes in that there is a surgeon, cardiology is a specialty, valve replacement and so on, and he is from St. John, and he is willing to help.
Okay, so that's
He's willing to help, yeah.
So that's one so far.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that they've got quite a few others who are contacting and want to be part of the entire thing. Folks, let me clear the line. Folks, we're going to take your calls from now up until, and I think someone's calling right now.
Good morning and welcome.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning to you, sir.
Yeah, good morning to you both. Yeah, I just called to clarify something. I called yesterday on your program, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not calling to argue. I just wanted to clarify something. I called concerning the road in the south. And then after I put on Sheldon talk about the Nawasa beat the road and they had to wait.
Mm-hmm.
But I know Nawasa had covered the road back with the dog from the roundabout into the Chublu. And also, with Kawana doing the hotel, I could understand maybe they have to wait to finish the project there. But I mentioned that in my comment. But when I listened to Sheldon comment after me, I don't think it was nice the way he give reasons,
Yeah. Listen, that was yesterday. We said what we had to say in relation to it. As far as I'm concerned, that discussion is closed. Yeah? So let's give somebody else an opportunity to call if they have something that they want to put out. Stated clearly in relation to everything you said, what was the present status and why things are the way they are. And I don't think we need to get into a back and forth on that. If you have another issue, you can call back. 440-7377. That's the number.
347-329-3101.
Mm-hmm.
That's our overseas line.
Yes. So let me see. Okay. So for those of you that are having problems viewing the program on Facebook, because apparently there seems to be some problem taking place with the Facebook link. Let me make sure again there. Yeah, there seems to be some problem with the Facebook link. Just remember, you can also view on www.hardtalkgrenada.com and on YouTube. Yesterday, YouTube was the one giving problems. Hey, Zuckerberg, you need to check on your stuff, man. Yes, so yesterday, YouTube was the one giving problems. Today, Facebook is the one that is giving some problems. But let me see. Yeah, it looks like it's gone down again. So let's see what is taking place with it. If we can get it up and running properly. Yeah, nice.
They know that. So don't stop, push back. So don't stop, push.
Yes, indeed, we have a caller.
Good morning.
Hello, good morning, Mr. Sheldon Scott.
Morning, my dear.
And to Mr. Devon Romain. Good morning to HARDTALK.
Good morning, Kami.
Morning.
And good morning to Grenada, Carriacou, Mr. Watts, good morning, and your wife in New York. Katia Cox, Patricia, Campbell in Canada. Mr. Deputy and his wife and family. It's summertime of the hot. Anyhow, Sheldon.
Yes, ma'am.
The Rosy Club.
Yeah.
Have some people here, and they say to come, Mr. Robert White and Mr. Hartford on Sunday and Andrew Donner radio station say to come down there. I went, they tell me come early, Mr. Scott. Listen to me. And the Grenadian people listen to me carefully. I reached down there before 7 o'clock this morning. Very early. To be honest, when I reached here, a lot of people there. But they did not organize. The Rosary Club did not organize that. From the minute time we reach, they should have people in the gate, and as you reach, they give you a number, and they should take your name. And then you enter inside of the youth center and sit down. And then they will take information, and when the doctors come, they call you. I sit there, and nobody, all who are asked for a number, they're telling you, wait, go and sit down there. I've explained to the man, I cannot climb up that step there because of my injured leg. I guess I cannot sit up. I asked Mr. Smith, I asked another lady to take your name to get a number. When it was 8 o'clock, they give us 300 and something numbers. You hear? And I ain't get one yet. And waste my time this morning to go down there and wait. And they did not organize. Everybody just coming in. You don't know who is before you. You ask who is before you, who you reach after. Because they didn't organize. Right? I spoke to Mr. Duncan. Nobody cannot help. You understand? I don't know why they make me waste my time and go down there. And I will down there in time to get a number. When I reached Mr. Scott, the minister said they give out 200 tickets already. That's to tell you. Right? And up to the 10th, before I leave there, I didn't get that ticket. So if you have to wait to see a doctor there, you leave in 5 o'clock tonight, 10 o'clock. The people tired because when I went to Grenada yesterday, in the place of it, there was full of people all yesterday evening. So they're tired. They came late this morning there too. So what time you want to leave down there? They didn't organize. You're supposed to be there. As you reach, you get a ticket. So people line up and get a ticket. Number 1, number 2, number 3. And then they take your information and then they could have called all the numbers that you see a doctor. They make people waste their time and stress up people this morning. Have a good day, Grenada.
All right.
All right, Camille. Have a wonderful day.
Yeah, so folks, at the club, I hope you take note, so that you can organize a little better so that the folks, because especially, I'm not too clear on exactly, I know sometimes they do glasses, sometimes they do different things.
Yeah, I noticed them at the Granborough Medical Station yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not too sure as to what.
Because remember, if it's people with medical issues, they can't stand for a long period of time, nor can they take that sort of heat that we're having around these days for an extended period of time. And so we have to be kind of careful when we're arranging for them. Yeah, so let's just be a little careful when we're organizing and arranging for these individuals. 440-7377. Devon, the Royal Grenada Police Force, they had a press conference earlier this week, but we'll get back into that.
Hey, good morning, Sheldon. Good morning, Devon.
Good morning.
How's everything?
Okay.
Yeah. Well, Sheldon, I want to look at the record of the both party government, NNP and NDC. Sheldon, you could see a difference. When NNP in government, the economy is on a forward move. But when NDC in government, the economy always in reverse. Right? While you have NNP government, the building the country, the getting things for the Ghanaian people to do. Right? Unemployment is always on the downward trend, but NDC in government, the unemployment always on up, going up to the 40s. Because NNP is the government that know how to solve problem. They don't create problem. Right? We open things, but when NDC government they close on Parliament for 6 months. The health places in Guav, they deprive the people of St. John because of St. Michael Church. The Grand Bacolet Center again, they lock it down. Mr. Terry Forrester at his place, they lock it down. So when you think there is nothing they did that is positive for to help the great people see this is a opposition waiting so that they could vote for them when they come in the next election, in the 18 more election to come. Because see, they always anti-people, they always negative, always don't want nothing for the Ghanaian people. So I want to say to the Grenadian people. You see someone that care for you. You see someone that love you and trying to help better your living condition. All right? So this is the party right now, NMP, that cares and love. While the one who hate, they don't want to see nothing good for you. So you open your eyes and see the one with love and who cares about you. So then, next 4 or 5 elections to come, you have no choice but to vote the person who will help better your living condition. Well, Devon, Sheldon, you all have a wonderful God bless you.
All right, thank you.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and Devon, I was saying that, and we just a reminder, we do have a guest. They haven't arrived yet, but they should be here within the next few minutes. The Royal Grenada Police Force, they held a meeting on Monday, a press briefing. And as per usual, each year, they roll out their plans for the carnival season. So we know that all police officers and so everybody's being recalled. Nobody will be on leave. There'll be no leave and so at during the carnival season for those couple of weeks. So outside of that, from there being no leave and so, they'll be instituting various things. One of them that they will be instituting breathalyzer tests. Yeah. So if they find you, if you think you're going and drink a pile of rivers and then get behind the wheel of a vehicle, you have another thing coming. Yeah, you better get a designated driver because it could actually lead to you losing your driver's license as well. It's not just you could be fined in the first instance and so, and you could end up, after a period of time, you could end up losing your driver's license as well.
You could end up being in prison too for that.
Yeah. And
After
fined,
a while,
fined and confined.
Yeah.
And or confined.
Continuous offense and these
Yeah.
types of natures would eventually land you in prison.
Yeah, so folks, you have to be careful out there. And when I say careful, you know you're heading to Soca Monarch, you must have a friend that doesn't drink. That is your driver.
Tag along.
Yeah, that is your driver.
Sure on that.
Nice. So that you make sure that you ain't going and drink a set of thing and then you're drifting all over the place and then you go to drive after that. You're swinging, you don't even know where you put your keys and you're swinging left and right and you go to drive. No.
And
the police will be on the lookout and they will be administering breathalyzer tests.
And even if you go out there and you may take a too little drink or you may feeling fatigue and so, during the season, look for those recovery tents. You know, we call it recovery tents. Those tents set up by Netherlands Insurance and so, where you can go and get some water, coffee and so to revitalize yourself after a major activity. And so don't take the chance, right, to drive while intoxicated, right? Do what you can because the Royal Grenada Police Force is out there. They are out there in force and they are in a no-nonsense mood.
Also,
right?
They'll be looking for other traffic violations. No, not just seat belts. They'll be looking for other traffic violations. And so they will be putting roadblocks at different locations. And if you feel you'll get away from one, they're going to have a next one.
Yep.
They will be having a zero-tolerance approach to offensive weapons. Let me say that again. They'll be having a zero-tolerance approach to offensive weapons. So they stop your vehicle, they conduct a search, and they find cutlass and knife and all sort of thing inside it. Yeah? And you're not on your way to the farm. You're on your way to Soca Monarch. They're going to ask you why. Yeah? Licensed firearm owners, you ought to, before you head to one of the venues, turn your firearm in to the nearest police station. Yeah? Turn it in to the nearest police station. So, you could check Central Police Station if you want. You can turn it in. Or if you're in the south of the island, South St. George, whichever police station. So you're a licensed firearm owner. No, do not leave it at home for somebody to break in and take. Do not leave it in your vehicle for somebody to break in and take. Bring it to the police station. You can sign it in. They will take it and take your rounds and everything, your magazine, and they will hold it there for you. Yeah, and don't expect them to give you back the same night. If you come back, they drifting left and right. Go back for it the next day. All right? So, licensed firearm owners, you are to turn your firearms in to the nearest police station before heading to one of these events. So don't go to the event and when you reach and they start to search, realize you have your, even though it's licensed, you have it on you. You need it inside there. They're going to secure you there. So you don't need it there. They're going to secure you inside there. All right? And obviously, you can't be going in them thing with cutlass and knife and them kind of thing. That is not a butcher shop.
You do have grass and wood and thing to cut inside of the stadium.
Right, we have enough lawnmower to cut the grass in the stadium, so you don't need to go with no cutlass.
Weed eaters, everything like that. I mean,
they have nothing to juke the ice inside. In fact, you don't have to juke the ice, right? So you ain't need no ice pick, you ain't need no them kind of thing.
And I see some of those guys now, they're so creative with those weapons, the cutlasses, and so they're turning them into all different types, and shape of weapons to conceal it. And,
even for the Soca Monarch and the preliminaries and so coming, there will be restrictions. I haven't gotten the actual list yet in relation to what you can bring in. Yeah. Because some of the people, they want to bring in these big flags or so, but you want to bring in a flag where you want to bring it in on a bamboo pole and them kind of things. So there'll be restrictions on certain things that you can and can't bring in to things like Soca Monarch, semi-finals, and even preliminaries. There will be restrictions on what you can bring in. And folks, these things come with charges. You can be charged, fined and confined if found with these weapons and so around some of these activities. So one, you have to ensure that you follow the rules. No drinking and driving and that sort of thing. Always have a designated driver, right? So you could be the designated drinker and you have your designated driver, right? To avoid any sort of problem. So we're going to take a short break. Our guest is right here. So we're going to take a short break. We'll be right back with you.
They know that. So don't stop, push back. So don't stop, push back. Since last time we feeding all your music like it's nutrients. You're plugging your headphone, check the vibes and catch the ambience. Chamasa we ready and we silent under we feelings. Big bottle of Henny, come now we start the proceedings. They know they can't tell we voice. We say what we want. They can't make the choice. Only vibes bumping no drama. Juve is all in a bad state. We spoil and we like in the noise. This is how we do it. The mass that pass like it's a movie. They know that come out here for today. So don't stop, push back. We don't care what you say. Mind no rest. And Josh don't tell them we don't settle for line no rest. I working hard until I get them my mind no rest. The pass up right and back and all on the line no rest. They hungry for the mass and call me chef. The way I see people bust the gate, I thought they was drunk, intoxicated. Then I just smile, I could relate. Cause I know that the soca have them raving. Bring your friend, let's participate. To play mass, no need no happy day. How much time we have to say this? They know they can't tell we voice. We say what we want. They can't make the choice. Only vibes bumping no drama. Juve is all in a bad state. We spoil and we like in the noise. This is how we do it. The mass that pass like it's a movie. They know that come out here for today. So don't stop, push back. We don't care what you say. Mind no rest. And Josh don't tell them we don't settle for line no rest. I working hard until I get them my mind no rest. The pass up right and back and all on the line no rest. They hungry for the mass and call me chef. They know they can't tell we voice. We say what we want. They can't make the choice. Only vibes bumping no drama. Juve is all in a bad state. We spoil and we like in the noise. This is how we do it. The mass that pass like it's a movie. They know that come out here for today. So don't stop push.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, that's one of Dash tunes for this year. Yeah, songing okay there, man. Yeah, songing okay. Yeah, folks. So remember, folks, at Carnival City. Hey, and tonight is Hot Wednesdays. Hot Wednesdays. That's we boy there. What's his name again? Pompidou? Yeah. I still don't remember as Pompidou. Big Bumps. Yeah. So that's taking place in Pearls.
Yeah.
All right. Folks, we have a young lady in studio with us. She's no stranger to Hard Talk Studios. We speak of none other than, Devon, you introduce?
Yes, Miss Orslyn Crosby, who is also the Public Relations Officer of NAGMA. Miss Orslyn Crosby, good morning to you and welcome again to Hard Talk.
Good morning, Sheldon, Devon, all your listeners. I know those online streaming, as we are streaming. Thank you so much for having me here again.
Yes, indeed. But we must have NADMA coming in every now and again because we want to hear some of the wonderful things that are going on. What's the latest with NADMA right now?
So, good news today. Sometimes we have to share those that are not so good when it comes to the systems. But it's beautiful outside, so I'm not soaking this morning and delayed because of the rain. That's a plus, but we also welcome the rain when it comes. But today we're going to talk about the CCDRMF project. We're talking of the Grenada Caribbean Disaster Risk Management Fund project that we are officially closing next week, Tuesday and Wednesday, on the Sister Isle and on mainland.
Next week, Wednesday and Thursday.
Tuesday,
so
9th and 10th.
Explain
so Tuesday and Wednesday.
Explain it as a long set of...
it's a long acronym, we know.
Yeah.
But, okay, so what is it about? The CCDRMF project was launched last year in February of 2018. It involved, funding to the tune of $198,000 was sponsored to us or was given to us by and grant funding, that is, from the Government of Canada through the Canada Caribbean Disaster Risk Management Fund for us to upgrade 14 of our emergency shelters in the state of Grenada. And we know when we say the state, we're talking the mainland and, of course, our dependencies, our sister isles. The project, as I said, was officially launched in February, and it involved a retrofitting and upgrade of our emergency shelters to be able to accommodate the people living with disability and also our elderly. So we are focusing on our vulnerable groups. We oftentimes, whenever we get to that stage, in disaster management, we know that they are a part of our vulnerable groups. And if we were to forget them, it means that they will become casualties of the system, and we cannot leave anyone behind. So we are working towards ensuring that we prepare for them. And we know that our shelters are our safe havens in times of disasters. You think that your structure may be compromised, and in most cases, some of the people who fall within the vulnerable groups, most of the times their structures are compromised. They may not have family to help them or so. And you know us in that time, who could running and leaving those who can't help themselves behind. So somebody has to take up the slack for them and ensure that they are safe. And of course, that will fall within our jurisdiction. So we would have started that project. We would have had 14 shelters. So now we have 14 shelters throughout Grenada, including Carriacou, that have shelters that can accommodate people living with disability and our elderly. And what are some of the things that we would have done in there? So it involved the construction of ramps, toilet facilities. We included some rails, and so to make it easier for these people to move in and out of the shelters. 14 shelters. Let me tell you who the shelters. They identified the shelters for you and what we would have done at the various shelters. So in the parish of St. Andrew, we had shelters. We had the Pearls Community Center, right? We would have constructed a wheelchair ramp there, and they also got water tanks. So we would have built some of them. We had to build a structure to put the tanks above ground. So they got the tank and the structure to ensure that the tank is safe.
Also, the tank is sort of enclosed.
Yes, they are enclosed.
Instead of the breeze just take it down.
Because it can also become a hazard if they are not secured. In times of, and the fact that they are shelters, we cannot go against what we always ask you to do at home. We have to keep within the guidelines of what we ask you to do. So the fact that we're putting these extra water, or rather backup water supplies in our shelters, it means that we cannot create our own hazards at the shelters. Because when these tanks are loose, let's talk about the wind. We know the strength of the winds that we get when we are affected by a system. If they are not enclosed and if they are not secured, then we know what will happen. They will become missiles and they may even damage the same shelter in which they're supposed to be servicing. So they are within an enclosed structure that's built up. You have the blocks that come around. Of course, you have the pad that's open so that you can move them if you have a problem. But enclosed, so even if the wind, they would stay within. They may move, but you know for sure that they will not become a missile to become a hazard for you. So Pearls Community Center would have gotten the construction of the wheelchair ramps, and of course that was at the entrance to the shelter, and then we constructed the water tank above ground, the structure that is, and then also they got the tank. They got a 1,000-gallon tank. St. Andrew Anglican Secondary School, SAS, was also a recipient, and remember they are also one of our shelters. Actually, SAS would have gotten the biggest from the project. They got the most from the project. What did they get there? We actually constructed an entire restroom facility and create access for physically challenged individuals. So they got a ramp and they got a completely new toilet facility at the school, at SAS. Still in St. Andrew, the Monlong campsite. We would have also put some backup water storage there. They also got the erection of the structure for the water tank and the tank. So they got an 800-gallon tank at Monlong campsite. St. James Community Center. They also got a 1,000-gallon tank and that included the structure also. That's St. Andrew. St. David, Corinth Community Center. We constructed a wheelchair ramp to access the first floor and the ground floor of the shelter. And then we had the Westerhall Secondary School, where we constructed the wheelchair ramp and handrail. We did speak to the handrails. I think initially when I spoke to the rails, I spoke to the ramps, I spoke to the toilet, but I did not speak to the water. So it also included a part of the backup water supply for some of these shelters. In St. George, the Bethel Methodist Church, we resurfaced their wheelchair ramp. Their wheelchair ramp and install handrails also at the Bethel Methodist Church. Marian Prototype, it is our multipurpose center. It is a prototype actually for a prototype shelter that was constructed, I think it was after Ivan.
Yeah.
So there, what we would have done was construct a ramp with acceptable gradient to access the community center. So people living who will have to go to that shelter and you wheelchair bound.
Okay, it's sort of down a little hill.
So that's why the gradient there is important. So we would have constructed a ramp with acceptable gradient to access the community center. Because we cannot give you a ramp and then of course that ramp is going to create another problem for us. When you're coming down, maybe you don't have somebody to wheel you down. We don't need another accident there. St. John, the St. John's Christian Secondary School. So Shaper, as we know it, as it's colloquially called. We constructed a ramp with acceptable gradient to access the school and handrails. We also constructed the restroom facility. They also got the restroom facility at St. John's Christian Secondary School and created access for physically challenged and the elderly. So St. John's Christian Secondary is a model actually of everything that the project encompassed. They got everything. And that's the reason why the closing ceremony on the mainland will be held at Shaper next week, Wednesday. In Carriacou, no, we're not finished with St. John's yet. The Mount Granby Seventh-day Adventist Church, they also got a water tank. So we would have built the structure again, and they got an 800-gallon water tank there at the Mount Granby Seventh-day Adventist Church. And then the Closure Community Center also received the structure and a 1,000-gallon tank. Water storage tank at the Closure Community Center. Carriacou, as I said, we did not forget the Sister Isle. Dover government, we constructed a restroom facility there and created access for the physically challenged and, of course, the elderly. In St. Mark, the Moran Community Center, we constructed the water tank, the structure there for the water tank, and they received that 800-gallon water tank. And in St. Patrick, Shantymel Community Center, they got the structure for the tank and also an 800-gallon tank. So $198,000 from the Canadian government, and in grant funding, we must stress this, grant funding from the Canadian government through the Canada the Canada Caribbean Disaster Risk Management Fund. And of course, we will be officially closing this project next week, Tuesday and Wednesday. Tuesday will be on the Sister Isle, where we get to hand over, of course, officially hand over the facility to the people of Carriacou at the Dover Government School. And then on Wednesday, we do it here in Grenada at the St. John's Christian Secondary School, Sheeper, as we know it. We want to say thank you to the Canada government. We know that some may say 14. We would have released a list last day of 111 shelters. But what's important to note is that the process has started. We now have 14 shelters that are friendly for the people with disability to be able to, and we can house them. And remember, in addition to that, we got some items that was donated to NADMA by the GNCD. I believe we spoke to that when I was here last time. And it was also under that same project.
GNCD, just for those out there who probably don't know what that is.
The Grenada National Council for the Disabled.
Yeah.
They would have presented some rollators to us, wheelchairs, walkers, seats, the sponge seats for people living with disabilities, to also assist us in ensuring that. So we have put in the structures, we would have built the structure, we have the items now to be able to even make them more comfortable when they're housed at the shelters when we need to. So we want to say thank you to the Canada government. We know that I'm speaking here, according to our senator responsible for disaster management, Senator Garway, discussions will start, and I believe it has already started and will continue, into being able to retrofit some more shelters. We would have done 14. We released a list last year of 111. We're going to try to get, our target is to be able to ensure that all our shelters, all our emergency shelters can accommodate people living with disability. So it is quite a proud accomplishment for us at NADMA, and it is a reason why we're touting it so much. We are grateful. We are very, very grateful for it.
Let me ask though, regionally, how is Grenada as compared to some of the islands by having so many of our hurricane shelters outfitted in such a way? Does everybody have that, or is it something that Grenada is one of the few places that it's being done?
I remember last time I was here, someone called asking a similar question. Do you remember, Sheldon?
Yeah.
Where is Grenada as relates to disaster management in the region? Grenada is a model. And we continue to be a model island when it comes to disaster management. If you look at it, and I think it goes back to our experience 14, almost 15 years ago, with Ivan coming up, response, the way we would have built back. You go through Grenada now and you would ask yourself the question, were we really affected by a category 3 then? By then we thought it was a 5 because of the widespread damage, the destruction that it would have left in its path. We're not saying that the complete recovery process was seamless and that there were no blunders.
No process is seamless.
We're not saying so. But what we can say is that because of our resilience, the plan that was put in place, of course, and it is the present government that was in power then, the assistance given to us, and of course, the lessons learned 1 and 2, not trying to reinvent the wheel, but working with existing companies or countries that would have gone through a similar experience, learning from it, we would have done well. As it relates to disabilities, Sheldon, we know that that's where the world is going now. We cannot leave anyone behind. With the conventions and so on, rights of people, especially the people that are challenged, may not be as normal as we say it should be.
But to be honest with you, if a system is coming, that the first set of people are going for?
The
vulnerable ones, the elderly, and the disabled. Well, I like to call them the differently abled. So the differently abled and the elderly, the first set of people are going
for. Our elderly, our children, our people living with disabilities, they are the ones that we have to look for. And what I can say is, as it relates to that, Sheldon, everybody's now moving in that direction. We are already there. The process has already started. We can now say that we have 14 shelters that are ready to accommodate these people. So it means, therefore, that we are way ahead of some of our counterparts. Because remember, if you are not building a new structure now, more than likely, yes, you're building new, you would include it in your plan because that is the way that's the way we are. And that's the way we are now. Our existing shelters, if you don't decide to put it, at the end of the day, you're still in the same place, right? We have not had a system in what? I keep 14 to 15 years, and we are grateful. We don't want any. I'm not calling any.
Just our little ones that has just passed and throw a little water, throw a little breeze.
It helps wash down the rivers and the drains, and so no problem. But remember, in the case of Dominica, and so now that they are reeling back, they will be including those. But Sheldon, we are ahead in that area. We are ahead, and we want to say thank you to the government for the negotiation. The conversation started, and it yielded fruits. We can now say that we have the fruits, and we are eating it. We're benefiting from it because it's complete. Yeah, and we are looking now to take this to more shelters, more emergency shelters throughout the island. So we are ensuring that we don't leave any stones unturned, and of course, and that we are ready for whatever nature decides to throw at us.
Let me ask this question. Have Grenadians on a whole become a bit complacent? It's been so many years since Hurricane Ivan and Emily. Have we as a people began to get back into that mindset? And we're having this discussion, just a few nights ago, I was having this discussion with some individuals. And it seems as though many of us have gotten back into that complacent, God is a Grenadian mindset that we had fallen into because the last thing anybody remembers a hurricane hitting Grenada was Hurricane Janet back in 1955. So we were, every time you hear a system coming in the early 1990s and coming through the 1990s in general, you hear a system coming, and Nero at the time would say, prepare and so on. The Met Office would say what they say. And then 2 minutes later, you're there and you hunker down, and then you realize not even a breeze blow or rainfall, and we got complacent. Are Grenadians falling back into that complacent mindset when it comes to hurricane? Many of the people who are graduating from secondary school now may not remember anything about Hurricane Ivan.
It's possible.
Are
because
we
they were very young then.
Yeah.
They were young then. I don't think so, though. I don't think so. I don't think the level of complacency, because we had quite a big gap from 1955 to 2004. We did. Whole new generation was birthed then. But I don't think so, Sheldon, because last week Friday we had the rains, right? We did not release anything officially. Was it last week Wednesday? No, it was Friday. We did not officially say anything. We just asked people to continue to listen to the weather report, right? And I remember that was the last thing I would have said here when I left here, the last Wednesday that I was here. Continue to listen to the weather report. Let it be a part of your daily routine, that you listen to the weather report before you leave home in the morning. Or if you don't catch it in the morning, you catch it at midday or in the evening. And what we recognize is we did not say anything officially from NADMA. But people started calling. Of course, the statements and so started going up on Facebook. But what we want to remind you is, and that is something I always say, when we get information at NADMA, it's going to be guided not simply because the rain is coming. But remember, our statements, when we make them, it is one, it may be for information purposes. Two, it may be for you to take action. Start taking action. So it means that if we continue to just share, right? Every single time the rain starts falling, you would expect us to do so. But you have to remember that we are not the forecasters. The forecasters are the Met Office. When we act, when we speak, is because there is a reason for you to move. There is a reason for you to move. And that is what we wanted to get to the point. So, like in the U.S., when an amber alert it goes off, you know that you should keep your eyes and ears open. Look, you may just see the child, right? And that is what we want it to be. Listen to the weather report. Create that culture where not only when the show coming up and you want to go the night and you find the rain coming and you want to check the weather to see what's going on, you're going to call me. I have a wedding today and it's outdoors and the rain is coming. Will it stop? Always, don't let it be when you have an activity. Let it be a part of your daily routine. So you know how to pack. When you have the little ones, you want to ensure that you put their raincoats, you prepare them for whatever weather it is that's coming.
You know, it's gotten to the stage now because previously when you look at GBN News. What do we call GBN News back in the 1990s, the early 2000s? You look at the news, people would sit and look at the entire news package, probably because we didn't have much else to watch anyway. So when you're watching, you had to watch the whole thing. So you got the weather news at the end of it. You say, well, not even at the end of it. Before the end of it, you got the weather news on. But it's gotten to the stage now that a lot of people, they basically grab just the first part of the news, the sensational parts of segment 1, 2. By the time segment 3 comes on, a lot of people start signing off and they're gone watching something else or doing something else. So we have to get back to the stage of watching the weather.
Not necessarily. I think what we may have to do now is use the other mediums that people use to share the forecast. That is where we are getting at now.
Yeah.
I would have had the conversation. I've had the conversation with Mr. White at Met Office. And of course, we can assist in that area. You send the forecast to us. We can put it up share it through the different mediums. So you use social media as much as you can because you know that is where people go now. So the Twitter, the Facebook, as much of them as you can. We know we have those broadcast messages, and so send it out. Let it be far-reaching. So whether or not you don't have to stay with the news to be able to get the report. Once the weather report is accessible, then you don't have a concern because people will check it and they would say, okay, so that's what we're expecting. And you can plan accordingly. But we just want it to be a part of your daily routine. That is how you will be able to better plan what you're doing. So we are encouraging that. But Sheldon, to answer all of that, to say that, to answer your question, I don't think we have become complacent. We are now more conscious, very, very conscious of the weather. Once the rain started to fall, Sheldon, whether or not it have an activity, because for Carnival, rain does not stop anything. Once the rain start falling, everybody start wondering, okay, what's happening? Some people are still traumatized from Ivan and Emily years ago. So once the wind start blowing, then we start thinking. So I don't think we have become complacent. I think now we are more of a people that are very, very reactive. Once the rain start falling, we don't wait, If whether or not you call us or you decide to put a statement on Facebook, we know you're going to the supermarket. You're going and pick up a 2-packet of crisps. pick up the little things. But as I keep saying,
which is still we don't do it before.
That's it. We don't want you to do it then. We want you to do it before. The season has officially started. We're now into the second month, right? It is the 3rd day of July. So if you have not done it the whole month of June, we know we still kind of dry. It's very hot outside today. It's a beautiful day. But we are still feeling the effects of that extended, prolonged dry season. But we are into the wet and hurricane season. So let us be mindful of that. So when the rain starts falling, don't be worried too much. You just need to ensure that you're prepared. The rain will fall. And of course, we welcome in the rain because we know what's going on with our water supply. Yeah? Still limited. So let that little water come down.
Ms. Cosby, we on shelters, but I have a follow-up question on the shelters. Now, over the years, we have noticed that not all the districts, right, are equipped with emergency shelters for one reason or the other, right? And so I would just like you to explain to the public out there what are the criteria set down to identify emergency shelters and so. And secondly, when would persons, right, should get into the shelters, right, in the case of a hazard, a hurricane or whatever, when would be the best time for them to start moving to the shelters and so. I just want you to explain that to those listening outside there.
Okay, so Devon, yes, and that has been a concern for some constituents in the different districts as to there not being a shelter in their constituency. I know that has been a concern for people from my hometown in St. Mark. Everybody is wondering, why isn't there a shelter in St. Mark? And people keep asking, what we always, and I remember the last time I was here, I think we would have spoken to that too. We cannot put a shelter cannot be identified if it is or if it will be impacted by hazards that are around us. So there's no way we can make Bonet government a shelter because it is in the river. Along with that, the structure must be able to withstand the winds, rain, the conditions that the system would give us. So we cannot tell you to leave your home that you consider not to be safe and send you in a place that is even worse, then we would not be doing our jobs. We would more be putting you in danger, and we know that we don't do that, right? So there are specific guidelines. The guidelines, the rules, the criteria that designate a building, a shelter, that I don't have with me. That I can get from our shelter committee, of course, which is chaired by the Ministry of Education, because the Ministry of Education, most of our shelters are schools. Schools and community centers is what you realize, and some of our churches. So our shelter committee is chaired by the Ministry of Education. The chief education officer is actually the chairperson of that committee, that is ably run by Ms. Hyacinth, which is usually representing the ministry on this. Have had extensive training in shelter management. So every year, between the months of January and April, April as the latest, we have a team comprising of a representative from the Physical Planning Unit, the Ministry of Works, the engineer from the Ministry of Works, police, a fire officer, which are the officers that inspect businesses. That has always been done by Mr. Toussaint. He's the one that normally chairs the committee. A representative from shelter, a representative from NADMA goes along on those things. Sometimes we also have to bring in a police officer. Well, the fire representative can do both. But if needs be, we will bring in a police officer if we need. Because remember, while our shelters are schools and community centers, some of them, to access them at times can be a challenge. So we would walk along with a law enforcement officer. The team has their list. They have the criteria in front of them. And of course, with the fire officer there, the same criteria or similar that is used to determine whether or not a building is safe before any business or so starts their business transactions, commence there. It's similar to that for shelter. Most importantly, though, in shelter is that of the engineer's report, the engineer's assessment. And that's the reason why this year our shelter inspection took on a two-part arrangement. Whereas we should have had the engineers part of the team. Because of the workload at the ministry, we know that we have a lot going on. He was unable to attend when the shelter inspection team went out. So the team went out and they did their assessment, following the criteria, of course. And then the engineer now had to go back to all the shelters and assess them to ensure that, to say for sure that if we were to get winds of 155 miles per hour, that it can withstand it. The structure will be able to take it, and the people inside will be safe. So yes, this is how we determine what is a shelter, where identifying shelters, and the criteria by which a shelter or building is designated an emergency shelter. We cannot put you into a building where the roof is not sound, the structure, because remember after Ivan we would have outfitted a number of our roofs with those straps.
Hurricane straps.
The hurricane straps. Some homes, all homes that were built before, still being built now, are retrofitted with those straps, right?
A lot of people put them in this metal.
Yes, they put them in those metal, just against the latched up there, the rafters up there, right? So that is one of the reasons. These are some of the criteria, some of the things that you would take into consideration before a building is designated as shelter. Location, your structure, whether or not you accessible. We spoke about accessibility earlier with the ramps and so for people the elderly and people who are challenged. So these are some of the things that are taken into consideration. And that's the reason why some constituency will have several shelters, emergency shelters, and others may have only one, or all they have is just a secondary shelter and not a primary shelter where you can, remember, primary shelters are the ones that you can go into before the system. The secondary ones are the ones you go in after the system, because they may just have things that while the structure may be sound, it can take the conditions. There may just be some fancy blocks, some louvers that may open, and you may get wet inside. It defeats the purpose. So we cannot send you there before. We have to send you there after. We can accommodate you after. When do you go to a shelter? Remember, let us take the process into consideration. When there's a system coming, when there's a system approaching us, we usually issue a warning 24 hours. Yeah? We say that is when conditions we are expected to start feeling the effects of the system coming.
It's now 36.
The warning? No. Warning is 24 hours, between 12 and 24 hours you may start feeling the effects. 36 is what we would use for watch. 48 to 36 hours we would use for the watch, which is, it's still a bit far
We're
away.
watching.
We're watching it still, but you should be on the alert, yeah? Warnings within that time. When that were to happen, you know that once we issue it, it means that an emergency meeting is commenced by the NEAC, the Advisory Council. So that's the emergency team. The National Advisory Council will meet. All essential services, all government departments. We're talking police, we're talking Grenlec, everybody will meet. It doesn't matter, the shortest space of time. Sometimes it happens within an hour of getting the information. We have to pull everybody from what you're doing and we convene. At that advisory meeting, the decisions are made as to when schools will be closed. Let's say it's not the holiday season, yeah? They're not on vacation. When schools are closed, when we were advising the private sector businesses to close. So we know once we say schools, the ministry closing too, because government departments are included in that. From there, at that meeting, it is also determined when shelters will be open. When shelters will be open, and once you get that information as to the time that shelters will be open, from then people can now prepare to go to shelters. And that's the reason why we always say to you, it's important that you prepare before, right? The shelter may not be close to you, as we spoke to earlier. It may not be within your constituency, but it is the closest shelter to you, and that's important. That is the reason why it is very important that you know where your shelters are, and it is important that you identify the closest shelter to you, and you make plans thereafter to get to the shelter safely before all the drama and so outside as relates to the weather are starting to be impacted by the system. But you may not have much time. The kind of packing that you may want to pack, you won't have the time to do it then, because you're working in St. George's and you have to get up to St. Andrew. You have a family of 4, right? You have to get children together. You have to wonder what to do with your pets. If you don't think of those processes before we get to you having to pick up and move, it's going to delay you. By a certain time, transportation may be a challenge. All of those things we have to think about. And that's the reason why we always encourage you to be prepared. So you should already have your emergency kit ready. So if you think that you have to go to a shelter, by the time you get home, you know, okay, I'm going to put the dog there. I'm going to be putting the cattle, you know that you leave them loose. But so if anything, they would be able to find themselves a safe place to be. If you have not identified a place, right? You can deal with your animals, you have your crops, you have things outside that are still loose. Tell me how you're going to get all these things done and still get yourself to a shelter. If you're not driving, what you're going to do with your vehicle. Remember, all these things take time. But the time it will take to happen, it is not slowing down the system from coming. You need to be prepared. So you get home, you know you have all those things down packed. Everybody have their responsibility at home. You can, on your way up from work, you can call. And everybody knows you know what you have to do. Check the plan. You start, and by the time I get there, it's just to pick up your bin or whatever it is that you have your emergency supply in, and you head to your shelter.
Family members who are extended family, who've got members of their family. Maybe let's say you're living in Birch Grove. You've got family in the town of Grenville and so on. So how do you go about dealing with that particular one? With the family plan. Suppose your grandmother, for instance, is a low-lying area in Balthazar. You're up in Birch Grove, you have other family members in Grenville and so on. I'm asking this in the context of, I believe that families should have, outside of the immediate family, the household, for other members who may not be able to do things on their own.
Your family plan should include, it must include them, because remember they fall under the vulnerable group. And that's why we speak. That is why we speak of the family plan so often, that emergency family plan. And people identifying roles and responsibilities of each family member. And once you know what you have to do, and that's why we say you sit down, since before the season would have started, you sit down and you identify everybody's role in the plan. So you have that grandmother that's living in Grenville and you up in Balthazar, you're in Birch Grove. Then you know that I would have identified Sheldon to take care of grandma. So when we issue the warning is issued, you know that be alert, By the time we send out the information saying that shelters will open at 5 o'clock, Sheldon, you know that by 4 you have to leave home, wherever you are. If you're living in St. George's, that you need to leave St. George's by a particular time to be able to go and pick up Grandma's emergency kit, pick her up, and safely drop her off at the shelter.
Folks, we're going to open the phone lines for the next few minutes. So we're going to open the phone lines in case you have a question that you would like to ask of Miss Crosby. So the phone number 440-7377 for those of you who are locally.
And 347-329-3101.
And we do apologize for the Facebook link today. It's due to no fault of our own, but apparently there is an international problem with Facebook at this moment. And WhatsApp also seems to be slightly affected. So both WhatsApp and Facebook are giving problems. Yesterday we were having problems with our YouTube link. But for those of you that want to view, YouTube is on. You can view on YouTube. The YouTube link is working. Or our website, www.hardtalkgrenada.com. Ms. Crosby, while we look forward to some calls, you all had a coordinators meeting this week? Meeting with a different call. How did that go?
Well represented. We know that our coordinators, they came out. At this point, you know that you must meet with them because as we always say, our coordinators are our first responders when something about to happen, because all we would do at the secretariat is coordinate the national response. So our coordinators would go there, you see the damage, you call in, you need that assistance, because everybody that you would need to respond will be at your national operating center. Yeah. So our coordinators came out. At those meetings, we give them an opportunity. You get to give an update as to where you're at. One of our challenge with our district structure, is that we have some districts that are very active. And I know Devon would have spoken to that last time I was here. And others that are dormant. Yeah. But Sheldon, you know that it is one of the challenge that you're presented with when you're operating with a service of volunteerism. Yes? Whereas in the past, volunteerism, it was a way of life for us. Times have changed and so too has man. Yeah? And it has created its own challenges. But we are working with it. We know that we still have the people out there that are still within that, they're still very, very committed to the acts, the kind and generous acts of volunteerism. And to those, we say thank you very much, because what you are doing, if we were to put a value to it, we know that it's going to take us, years and years. You may even pass before the estate may be the ones benefiting from it. And we want to say thank you. And we know that there are people out there who would love or looking for organizations to contribute, to be able to give back to. And if that's the case, you're looking for, we welcome you at NADMA, because we need the assistance. We really do. Only last week, so we had the coordinators meeting this week. Last week, we had a session with the St. David team, where they would have received training, and that's our district teams, training in CPR and first aid. That one was facilitated by a very familiar name to NADMA, Ms. Dixon, Samantha Dixon. She would have done that. And of course, participants were certified in the fields, they got their badges, their Red Cross certified CPR and first aid training badges, and so yes. And these are the things that come out of our coordinators meetings, and of course from our district teams. So you have your meetings, you have your district meetings, and when you do, a representative of our community program officers from the office would attend. So we have an idea as to what's happening. What are your challenges? Where do you need help? What do you need our assistance to do? So we do that. From there, the chairpersons of our district teams would then make requests. I think my team, I have a fairly new team, and I think they need some training in first aid, some basic tips. Our shelter committee needs to know how to manage the shelter in the event that something were to happen. Our DANA representative on the district level needs to fully understand the processes of assessing a damage when something were to happen. And these are the things, that is where our district teams are critical. So when we meet with our coordinators or deputy chairs, when we have coordinators meeting, these are some of the things that come out of it. And from it, it gives us now an idea as to how we can craft the plan to be able to better engage, better support, better provide resources for district teams that, of course, as we always say, our first responders. And that's why we want people to know who they are, know who the chair of your district committee is. Know them, and if you have the time, assist them. Because there's never too many hands when it comes to disaster management, because we know when something were to happen, we need even more hands. The people that are affected are the same ones that have to volunteer their time to ensure that others are comfortable.
Good morning.
As a member of the St. John Northwest Disaster Committee, I will ask a question, okay? And that question is like, okay, someone left the home and they came into the shelter. And while in the shelter, the home get damaged, so badly damaged. And they're in the shelter. And they happen that school about to open. And the person has no way to return back to the home. I don't know what will become of the person. Where will they house put these people at them?
Okay, Kuala. Thank you for that question.
Okay.
So we saw situations like that after Hurricane Ivan.
Yes, it is actually our responsibility now, because we cannot put you out on the street. We cannot put them out on the street. So we have to find alternative arrangements to ensure that they are housed. We have to house them somewhere. We must. Is that a one or two?
So it falls
things?
back to NADMA.
It still falls back on the entire system to ensure that it happened. And I'm sure you would remember after Ivan. Do you remember some people? We would have made some temporary. So you go and you fix people's places, even though it was temporary. Some people would have had tarpaulins and so on their homes, some plastics.
Yeah, boy, some tarpaulin house.
Yes, you had to. So even if you would have done some temporary fixing, some temporary repairs, just for them to go home, because and that's what we always keep speaking of, the importance of recovery, and ensuring that it can happen. And when we speak of people preparing, that's some of the things that that's one of the reasons why we advocate it, right? Your house may be, in some cases, some people's houses were demolished completely. They had nowhere to go. But do we put them out on the street? We cannot. We cannot put you out on the street. So we make alternative. As I said, remember, some of our shelters are community centers and some are schools. So in the case of the schools, we know that schools will need to reopen, but we still have community centers. We may still have a house. And we had some cases like that where there were houses that were not occupied, and people would have volunteered their homes to ensure that people are safe. Others might have gone and they went to live with other family members, so they made those arrangements too, where another family member that have a big space were able to accommodate some of their family members. But we have to ensure that if you don't have an option where, say, you have a family member that can take you in, until we get to that point where we can bring you back to a place of comfort, to your place of comfort, then we must have that backup plan to ensure that that person is safe. There is no way that you'll be outside in the rain wetting. We don't do that. That's the reason why we are mandated with the responsibility of managing disasters. It involves mitigation, it involves response, it involves rehabilitation. So putting you out, it falls outside of those.
Okay. 440377
and 347-329-3101. Ms. Cosby, finally, NAGMA is about to realize its home, its headquarters. Could you just expand a bit about it in terms of location and possibly what would it entails, right? And so funding and all these type of things.
Well, as it relates to, so we are looking forward to that big project. I think now we should soon be getting into that phase of tendering. The new headquarters is going to be up at Manjaloo, where the old radio station used to be.
TV station.
The old TV station used to be, not radio. The old TV station used to be actually the same location. That big area there. I know it is usually maintained by the prisoners. So we usually keep it preparing it now for what's to come. We would have had, and the headquarters will be funded by the U.S. government, the Southern Command. It is a gift to Grenada by the U.S. government. It will include a state-of-the-art headquarters, and that will involve, this morning I heard Senator Gary speaking to it, and some of the things that might have delayed our making of a final decision as to what it would include. When we're speaking disaster management, let's say for some strange reason we're affected by a system, and the ministerial complex, the cabinet room, is unable to accommodate our ministers to be able to make decisions. Remember, that's the people that have to meet still. That's where final decisions are made. That's where policy decisions are made. Then the headquarters of NADMA is supposed to have a room that will be able to accommodate our cabinet, our prime minister, be able to house him, so he can work from there. So you have an office, there's a backup office for him, a backup room, conference room for our cabinet to be able to operate and make decisions. So these are some of the areas that it will include. It's going to include a state-of-the-art communications room where we're going to get to be able to communicate with the outside world. Everybody else should be flat, but there should be one structure that's standing, solid, strong, and we can coordinate the response there.
Just a reminder of which location has been looked at in Grenada and which in Carriacou, because it's two, isn't it?
Yes. Carriacou is actually going to get a warehouse. They will be getting a warehouse in Carriacou. They will be getting
a staging point.
They'll be getting yeah. So they would also be getting one in Carriacou. Grenada, definitely. I know for sure Grenada is up at the old television station Montjaloux, up on top there. You know that, and once you look at the location, you know that it was identified, keeping in mind all the hazards that have the potential of affecting us. So we didn't go close to the sea, where if it's a tsunami, then
you're wiped out.
Then we cannot operate there. So it's on top of the hill in Montjaloux. In Carriacou, I believe it has. I would not speak to where in Carriacou, because I'm not sure. I know I heard.
But Carriacou is getting.
But Carriacou is getting.
That will serve both Carriacou and Petit Martinique.
Yes. Petit Martinique have a DOC, yeah?
Yeah.
Petit Martinique actually have. It is one of the DEOCs similar to that of the one in River Sally that was also given to us by the U.S. government, by the same Southern Command. So Petit Martinique is
they can actually stand alone.
Because right now, Petit Martinique is sharing actually the Disaster Management Office, the DEOC, which is the District Emergency Operating Center in Petit Martinique, with the police. So we have split now the operating center, because you know that these buildings, as compared to the national headquarters where we're always working there, our district DEOCs are not as active as headquarters will be. So it's there. We would use it when we need to. So the police is now housing part of the building.
Okay.
Good morning and welcome.
Police is there.
Good morning, gentlemen, and good morning to your in-house guests. Now, the question I have for your guests in-house there is that, are there different phases of disaster preparedness? And if there are, can you elaborate on it for us a little bit? Thank you.
Interesting question.
Very interesting.
Yes, there are different phases of disaster preparedness. Because for one, when you speak of general preparation, right? The preparation that we speak to before the season start, that is phase one, isn't it? That is phase one. When we getting close, or when we're about to be impacted by a system, it takes on a whole different face, Sheldon. It does. So there are different phases of disaster management and preparation. Must. For one, before the season, it is basically, so we're just there. It's just like the fire tenders at the fire station. You have to ensure that your engines are working. When you turn the key, they would move. Your sirens are operating. Your pumps are working. So you're just making sure now we're in working condition. When you get a call, you move into another phase, because then you're moving. When you get to the scene, you get to another phase, because now you're actually in action. What you do or don't do can determine the amount of loss you have. Lives may be lost, and not just property here. What you do will make a difference. Disaster management, fire is a hazard, and it falls under disaster management. So there are phases to preparation. If you don't do phase 1, you don't expect to just jump to phase 2.
Mm-hmm.
You have to follow the phases, and on a national level, we know that it takes on a whole different perspective because then it's bigger. So, phase 1 for us is now. We're preparing all our committees to be able to respond if something were to happen. Phase 2, we're into the hurricane season. So now at the office, everybody have responsibilities if we're thrown into disaster mode. Phase 3 is actually being able to respond when we're impacted. Phase 4 will take up that of being able to do your assessment and, importantly, recover, respond, recover, and rehabilitate.
Great. What I'd like to ask here in the final 5 minutes that we have on today's program, considering a discussion we were having just before you came to the studio in relation to the Grenadian diaspora, we, via our sister station out there, or you could call this one the brother station, I'm too sure Wade would like to be called sister station, out there in Brooklyn, and other means, we know that many persons are following the program still, some of them still fighting up at Facebook and YouTube to listen to the program. The Grenadian diaspora, there are many persons that want to offer their services to their country of birth, or at least the country of their parents or grandparents' birth. How can they become involved with NADMA?
I'm happy that you asked this. And you see I'm going through my phone because I am looking for a document in here. Because what we recently had, I found it. We just had a Grenada Disaster Preparedness Toronto Committee being formed.
Wow.
Yes. We have to speak more to it, yeah? Because and that's why I'm saying I'm happy that this came up now. And this is done, I think, by just a group of Grenadians living in Canada and deciding to pull themselves together. So the objective of the Grenada Disaster Preparedness Toronto Group, its mission is to provide immediate assistance and training to alleviate the impact of a disaster in Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. They have welcomed partners such as Global Medic, and of course a rapid response agency funded by paramedics. Global Medic is frequently the first or only team getting critical interventions to people in life-threatening situations after disaster. So this venture was initiated by the Consul General, and that is Consul General Derek James, along with volunteering nationals who met in November 2018. The subcommittees include committees such as transportation and storage, logistics, communications, medical, media, and fundraising. They will have an official launch. Actually, they had an official launch on May 31st this year. And the event is designed to bring awareness to our community. So to the people in the U.S. now. So now that Consul General James would have started this in Canada, we're hoping that we get a ripple effect. So a domino effect in the U.S. and other places where Grenadians are living. We know that that is always a concern when we're impacted by a system. Our family members outside are always very worried. We know that telecommunication networks and so will go down, right? And it is something that we are also, and it started, I remember last year, it was something that was heavily focused on, just around the time that Miss Dixon would have left. We had presentations, or rather visits, from the U.S. Charge d'Affaires, and that's the OECS one. That was Honorable Tagliatella Teller, Linda Tagliatella Teller. She came to NADMA. We also had a visit from the British Council. We had a visit also from the Canada Consul General, speaking about that, ensuring that whatever we do, when we coordinate responses after a system, remember these countries need to be able to find their nationals and ensure that they are safe when they are here. And that is where our foreign ministry, our Ministry of Foreign Affairs, comes in and play a very, very critical role in that time of recovery. Because you need to ensure that these people are safe. In the event that the countries need to remove them, they need to send a plane off to get their people to safety. You need to know that these amount of Canadian citizens are here, Americans are here, and there's a point person in NADMA or within the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Foreign Affairs / NADMA, because Foreign Affairs is also a part of NADMA, that you can say, okay, we have 52 Canadians here. How much Americans we have here? U.S. British citizens. So, in the event that they need to evacuate these people, that they can come in, we can tell them where to be, we can identify them, they can get to us at the agency or the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to say that, I am here. And that is the reason again. And you realize, Sheldon, everything that we say in disaster management goes right back to preparation. Because if you don't have your documents that can identify you, more so critically your passport at that time, or any ID that can identify you as a citizen of another land, then it puts you in a very, very compromised position.
You can't enter the United States,
you
have no
cannot
ID.
enter if you have no ID. And that's why we speak to ensuring that your important documents are safe.
Keep them on you.
Keep them on you.
You can't.
But
difficult to
also
lose when it's safe on you.
Also ensure that they are safe, because water is a factor then. You need to ensure that they are safe. So there goes an idea out for the thousands of Grenadian nationals living in the U.S.
Yeah, because we have some that work in fire and emergency, law enforcement.
Yes, and they have contributed.
Yeah.
They do send back their contributions.
Yeah.
We had presentations made to the police force recently, and that of the vests
But
and so.
it might also be good for some of those who are in Brooklyn listening right now to form themselves into a search and rescue team that is available not just for Grenada but the Caribbean region. So you don't only have Grenadians, but you have Caribbean folks. So in case of any disaster in the Caribbean,
You can respond.
That
You can
team.
assist.
Yeah.
You would definitely be helping then.
yeah.
And that is what this is about. So, and as I said, that's what I'm telling you, I'm so happy that you would have asked the question, because it came at the right time. So Toronto has led the way. Council General James has led the way in that. We are encouraging it. We would love to see it being replicated in the other islands where we know we
right.
have a lot of Grenadians.
Any final words, Ms. Crosby? We're out of time.
Just to say thank you again for giving us a platform to be able to share what NADMA is doing, how you can assist, what you need to do to ensure that we are safe, we are all safe, the questions that you may have that to you you're not getting an answer to, that we now can come here through this platform. You get to ask your questions. You get to get answers. You may have a question that we cannot answer, but of course, when I'm back, then I can answer it. But what's important is that we have this medium to share information, critical information that makes a difference when we are impacted by hazards. And for that, we say thank you to HARDTALK, and of course to all the people who are listening. We say thank you for always listening, always being our how should we go? The people are our headmasters. The people are our headmasters. They are the ones who assess us. They are the ones who grade us. And of course, thank you for the criticisms, the suggestions. They help. They help us do what we do better. So we say thank you. And of course, remember, we are still into the hurricane season. Let listening to the weather forecast be a part of your daily routine. Listen to it. If you did not hear it, we are working on sharing it wider, to a wider reach, more people. Let it be a part of your daily routine, but always remember, let us all be safe. That's important. It is important.
Folks, that's all the time we have for HARDTALK today. We'd like to thank Miss Oslin Crosby, as usual, doing an excellent job in studio representing the National Disaster Management Agency, NADMA. So we'd like to thank you so very much once again, Miss Crosby, and we look forward to seeing you 2 weeks from now.
Yes.
God's willing. 2 weeks from now, we look forward to seeing you once again in studio with us. So, folks, that's all the time we have today. In whatever you say and do it safe and secure. I want to be speaking to and with you.
Not about you.
We are out of here. Yes,
Stay
indeed.
up to date with all that's happening with the new national party, NNP. Send us a message via text or WhatsApp on 405-8683 with your name, email, and constituency. Stay in the know with NNP. Get updated.